Hello, everybody. What we're going to do is just use this podcast as kind of a introduction to the pig dissection. The pig dissection is going to be one of the biggest point value things as far as labs go. So we also want to use this just to get you used to the idea of working with these little guys. Now, to start things out, your pig is in the third trimester of development, which means that he or she is fairly well developed. For those of you who aren't farm kids, I'm just going to go through a brief external anatomy to give you a basic idea of what you're seeing here. Obviously, it's always good to start out with the head. Pretty simple here. Basically, 1 and 2 is going to be the ears. 3, 4, and 5, we're going to see parts of the eye. 6 is the snout. 7, 8, and 9 dealing with the mouth. And then finally, number 10, which is the important part, the mental vibrissae. That is the hair on his chinny chin, and that is going to be one of our massive locators as far as where we start cutting, where we end cutting. So please remember that one small part. If we flip the pig around to where we're looking at it from the front, once again we can see the snout, the nostril, and then the tongue itself. If you look at number 4, that is the taste buds. You're going to notice the taste buds are swollen. No worries, you can just see them. If we flip the pig over to where we're looking at his belly side, once again, number 1 there is the mental vibrissae. That is the hair on his chinny chin. We will be using that as a marker when we're doing some of our cuts. If we slide on down just a little bit, you're going to notice the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord is attaching that pig to mom, obviously. But the big thing that we're noticing here is going to be item number 1, which is the umbilical arteries. Notice you can see 2 of them very well. Item number 2, which is the umbilical vein. And then we have the allantoic duct, which is number 3. If we move on, number 1, once again, is the umbilical cord. Number 2, the urogenital opening. And then finally, number 3 there, each one of those are teats or nipples, whatever you want to call it. And in this case, this pig happens to be a boy because we can see the scrotum. That's going to be one of the things that you're looking for when you're sexing your pig. If we take a look at the pig and we get ready to do our cuts, basically what I'm going to ask you to do is to place your pig belly side up. You're going to start out by using a scalpel, and with the scalpel I'm just going to ask that you basically start at the hair of his chinny chin and make a very superficial cut. From there, clear down to almost the anus. Please notice that right around the umbilical region that the cut actually went around it. And also notice that the cut that goes on to the anus goes on the right-hand side of the pig itself. So we don't want to damage anything on the left side. If you cut a little too deep, you will cause damage to the liver and possibly some of the intestines. But the nice thing is your pig is already dead, so it's not going to bother him too much. It just is an issue for you. Once you make this first superficial cut, what I'm going to do is ask you to move on to the chest cavity. The chest cavity, you're going to have to cut just a little bit deeper. Sometimes scalpels work. I sometimes find it's easier to use a pair of scissors and enter at the base of the sternum, kind of pry your scissors up a little bit, and then cut clear through the thoracic cavity or the chest cavity. Then you're going to work your way in the opposite direction. Now, when you do stick your scissors in right at the base of the thoracic cavity, you do need to make sure that you pry up just a little bit. That way you are not actually causing any damage to any of the organs that are going to be easily nicked. More of the same. You will be able to see some things. Pretty good chance once you get into the abdominal cavity that there's going to be a lot of liquid. So whenever you have too much liquid to actually pay attention to what you're doing, I'm just going to ask that you go to a sink and empty it, rinse it, dry it off, and then start all over again. Now notice with the cuts that I made here, they are deeper. If you follow along, notice that the cut does go on the right-hand side of the umbilical cord region, and it is heading, like I said, almost to the anus, but not quite. Once you finish that part, we're going to work on the head of the pig. With a scalpel, what I'd like you to do is just insert the scalpel on either side of the mouth, and what you're going to do is just cut back a little bit. You will feel where the mandible meets the maxilla itself The scalpel's not going to work the best for you for cutting through this because you got hard bone there. So once you make your preliminary cut with the scalpel, I'm going to ask that you actually stick the scissors inside of the pig's mouth, and then you're going to cut through those joints. In class, I'll show you a pretty neat way of making sure that you get through the right stuff. Once again, just showing you the cut. Now here, notice your pig's mouth. It is opened up. A lot of people, they don't cut far enough back, so please make sure that you do. You're kind of heading back, almost clear back to the throat region, so that jaw should just flop right open. When you open it, basically what I want you to be able to see is item number 1 there, which is the epiglottis. You'll also be able to see the soft palate, and just to the left of the soft palate you will find the hard palate. You'll also notice the teeth. Those teeth are very sharp, so be careful. And in this case, my left hand has a hold of the tongue. You'll be able to feel the actual taste buds of that tongue. A little bit closer view. Number 1 is the glottis itself. Number 2 is going to be the epiglottis. Those structures are very easy to see. You're going to see a lot of glandular type material also around. A lot of that gets damaged, so we don't spend a lot of time actually viewing it. Now, this picture, once again, that is going to be the roof of that pig's mouth. Number 3, we are seeing the nasopharyngeal opening. Number 2, we can see the soft palate, and then number 1 is that hard palate. Moving on. More of the same. This is a different pig, just to show you that there are some differences between animals. All the pieces are the same, but sometimes the pieces look a little bit different. Number 1 here, you're finding the taste buds. You'll find taste buds all around that pig's tongue. Just keep in mind they are swollen a little bit. Nothing to worry about. Number 2, we're looking at the esophagus, and then finally down there at number 3, the nasopharyngeal opening. Now, this is where things get a little crazy. We're moving away from the pig's mouth and we're moving down towards the thoracic and the abdominal cavities. Keep in mind that the diaphragm, that small muscle beneath the base of the lungs, is the major divider between thoracic and abdominal cavities. In this picture, we can see the heart. That's number 2. It's surrounded by that pericardial tissue. And then we noticed that number 1, looking at that, that is more of the diaphragm. Take a look at number 3, that is the peritoneum. That is going to be surrounding most of the organs in the abdominal cavity. And then number 4 is still that umbilical cord. Eventually it's going to be in the way, so we're going to totally remove it. If you take a look at this picture, once again we are seeing the thoracic and the abdominal cavities, but this is a really good picture and we're just going to focus on the thoracic cavity. If I start out at looking my way around, you'll see that my spatula is actually touching the heart itself. At the top of the heart, which would be number 7, there is a pulmonary artery. Other very, very visible things are going to be number 6 there, which is the trachea itself, and number 5, which is the larynx. Number 4, thyroid gland. Easily gets skipped over because it's not very defined at times, and sometimes you cut through it on accident. So what we'll do in class is somebody who does a really good job, if they save their thyroid and it's very visible, we'll just spend time looking at theirs. Now, when we take a look at the heart, in this case, we've removed all the pericardial tissue, which you'll need to do. Then you can see everything extremely well. If we work our way around, one's just indicating basically the heart itself. Number 2, you can see atria, along with number 3 is pointing directly to the pulmonary artery, and then number 4 is a ventricle. Keep in mind we got to keep our body directions right. So the pig's left is the left, the pig's right is the right. So just keep that in mind. Once we get into the abdominal cavity, the liver is easy to find, the intestines and all of that, but one of the hard things is the pancreas. And just take a look here. The pancreas, you're going to notice, is an extremely gritty material, and it takes a little bit of time to find it. A lot of times it's beneath the spleen, which is a leaf-like structure I'll show you here in a moment. It's kind of hidden within the intestines itself. one of the more difficult organs to find in the digestive tract. In this picture here, basically what I'm trying to point out is that, the stomach itself is going to lead directly into the small intestine. That first curve of the small intestine, where the intestines join in with the stomach, is called the duodenum. It's going to be easy to find pyloric valves. And the main reason it's going to be easy to find that is because of the amount of staining that's going to be there. And yeah, I'll just show you in class. They're actually pretty neat. Small intestines and the mesentery. With the small intestines, they are, it looks relatively like just a glob of organ within one spot of the body. But in the past, we've taken time to separate the mesentery from the small intestine. That mesentery actually keeps it all put together. And third trimester pig, the small intestines range anywhere from 8 clear up to 13 feet in length. So you can see we are saving a lot of space within our pig. Now, to move on, we are going to spend some time working on your pig's head. In order to actually get to the skull, we're going to have to skin our pig's head. It's actually really easy. Please notice in this image that the skin itself has been removed. We're going to use a scalpel. You cannot cut too deep because the cranium is extremely hard. It's easier just to kind of circumnavigate your way around the skull and then use your fingers and peel the skin right off. You're going to notice that there are nice little fissures within the bones on the pig. They're a lot different than ours. Notice it does form a cross. That cross is what we are going to use in order to make incisions into the skull with our scalpel and then eventually peel that bone away. In this image, the bone has been peeled away. Please notice that the brain itself looks like there is a sac on the very top of it. It's true, those are the meninges. They're extremely tough. It's going to be hard to get rid of them without damaging the brain. Basically, you're going to want to use a scalpel and you're going to want to work very superficially. You don't want to cut deep. In this image right here, we still see some of the mesentery, but some of it has been removed there at number 1 and number 2. The cool thing is we can see the sulci, which are the raised areas of the brain, and we can see the gyri, which are the valleys of the brain. So those are our wiggles. The reason for the curvatures and the wiggles in the brain is just to save space, just like with the small intestine. In a human brain, if we didn't have those wiggles, in order to have the same surface area of brain, our heads would need to be anywhere between 3 and 4 feet wide. Pretty amazing. This is something that we probably won't do in class because it is extremely time intensive, but what we've done is we've gone down the backside or the dorsal side of the pig. We've removed all of the meat, muscle, skin, tissue, you name it, to get down to the vertebral column. Basically, we can actually see each individual vertebrae in this case. Reason for doing that, basically, just to see how the vertebral column is nothing more than an extension of the brain. Oh boy, this was really tough. What we did was we went in and we actually removed the bone that surrounded the vertebral column. And what you're going to notice is the spinal cord itself is composed of the same stuff the brain is. Has that tough meninges around it. The inside is extremely delicate, can be damaged very easy. An up close of this, you can actually see the spinal nerves leaving it. And this was a very time-intensive dissection, but well worth the time. Another view, same pig. There it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Use this as a review, and good luck.